So there I am, my second day of college. I'm sitting at a lunch table by myself. And honestly, I'd rather be anywhere else in the world. I want to be up the hill with all the other rockin' and chalkin' Jayhawks. But I'm down the hill with the Fighting Indians. What, did I get lost on the way to college? I'm not brown enough. They're gonna know I'm an imposter. I barely know anything about being Potawatomi other than what my grandmama told me and what my mama confirmed. But I'm 26 years old and I deserve to be here. I dropped out of high school at 18. It took me 4 years to finish my final 4 credits. And I had to go to an alternative learning institution for adults and use the computer. I got a memo that says I graduated high school. It's all I could afford. So hey, let's go to Haskell Indian Nations University and give it the old college try. But I had a little ace in the hole. My mom actually went there in the 90s. She was even the student body president. And I'll tell you, she's just as light-skinned as I am. Now, she ran a competitive race and she got elected, but I'll tell you, turmoil followed while she was serving out her term. I remember her telling me about the bulletin boards around campus, with posters of her picture saying, Gene the half-breed, or, other flyers up that said, is this the best we can do? You dang right it's the best you can do. And I remember one certain stance where I walked in to Navarre Hall and there was a petition going to impeach my mother from her position because they said that she couldn't handle it, that she was neglecting her son and that she wasn't being a good wife and she should just give it up. But my mom, she cared. And the only reason she even ran for student body president is because she walked through that graveyard every day on campus. And you might be asking, oh, you had a graveyard on your campus, Charlie? Well, yeah. Haskell was one of the original boarding schools made in the 1800s to assimilate Native American children. So basically, government agents would go around and just snatch them up, kidnap them, and bring them to this school and convert them to the white man's ways. So she cared about those brown babies, and she ran, and she got it, and she was tough. She must have got it from Grandmama Georgia. Now, Grandmama Georgia, she looked the exact opposite of us. You would figure that she found Mom on the side of the reservation somewhere, but she was a strong Potawatomi and Salish Kootenai woman from Flathead, Montana. And she's got a great story too. She actually hitchhiked all the way from Montana and ended up somehow in Topeka, Kansas when she was 13 years old. She got to Topeka when she was 19. And one day, she decided to go to a honky-tonk in North Topeka across the bridge with my old Aunt Lois, a couple troublemakers. So my grandma, Georgia, looks up, happens to spot a young man on stage stringing his old guitar with his cowboy hat on. And that was my grandpa, Dave, man serving in the Air Force at the local base from Maine. So, there's a reason I'm a little bit more light-skinned. Now, Mom, when she graduated college, she returned to our reservation and ended up getting a job running the foster home. And in over a decade, she helped dozens and dozens of young Native American children have an opportunity to have a life. And that was great to see, but I'd always ask her, Mom, why do you care so much about keeping these natives and Native families, and away from white families when, look around. We're the white family, But now looking back, I totally understand what she was going for. So, obviously we had to move to the reservation. I spent my first 17 years in Topeka in the city. I grew up loving basketball and basically all I knew about being an Indian was what I got off the Pocahontas Disney VHS. Our Dances with Wolves, our, just any little thing I saw. I was cheering for the Chiefs. I was like, heck yeah, we got ourselves some Native representation. I love it. But when I got out to the country, making friends was difficult. And I never had any problem making friends in the city. You might as well call me Tom Cruise because it was mission impossible when I was trying to make Potawatomi friends. I even took my basketball down to the Boys and Girls Club, and I kept calling next. No one would pick me up. I just couldn't understand it. And then we went to the powwow that summer, And I watched my grandmother and mother proudly dance for our ancestors' memories, while I saw other younger children calling my little sister Custard's daughter because she had blonde hair, you know? And I had to ask myself up there, you know, why would I want to help a community that doesn't care about my family? You know, and that brings me back to the lunch table that day at Haskell, sitting alone. You know, I just had a chip on my shoulder so big, it was bigger than the whole Dane University. You know, and I was ready to fight. I was ready to prove them all wrong. I'll show you what I can do. I'm gonna be the best Indian out of all y'all. But then the anger kind of fell away, and I took a step back, and I thought of my mom the day before at orientation. She was sitting there right next to me, so proud, and I didn't need her. I mean, I'm 26 years old going to college. I'm a grown man. I don't need you to hold my hand, Mom. But there she was. And I remember that moment when I walked her back to her car and gave her a big old hug, and she had such tears in her eyes. And she said, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for your journey that you're about to take." And you know, she didn't hand out compliments like that very often. So it made me feel so good. So I'm at the lunch table, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll be just like Mom, and I'll run for student body president too. And I'm gonna win it just like she did. But I'm gonna do it even better, because I don't even care. I had to make friends, though. I mean, I'm at the table all by myself, right? So I did what Charlie does best. I looked over, lunch line, and I popped them with the head nod. Caught a glance from somebody I saw at orientation earlier. A big old 6'1" brick house of an Indian started walking my way. He caught my gaze, and then he sat down. And I was like, okay, I got me one. I got me maybe a friend, right? So and then I look at the lunch line again. And I'm like, let's see if we can go 2 for 2. Bam! Hacky sack buddy comes and sits down. And then bam, 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 bam. Before you know it, we got 8 Indians at the table. I mean, from Oklahoma to Alaska, you might as well have called us the United Nations of Natives. All sitting together. I felt so good in my heart. A year later, I did get elected to something, but it wasn't student body president. I actually got elected editor of the newspaper, the Haskell Indian Leader. So I would go to every game, every volleyball game, every football game, every beading club, the anime club. I met so many natives from so many different tribes that my own stereotypes that were ingrained fell away. And I started to see everybody for who they are. And they started to see me who I was too. And I'll tell you, I took that love for the people, for my community as a whole, and I ran with it. So I'm thankful for that lunch table, and I'm thankful for those hardships that I had to go through. But most of all, I'm thankful for my mother, for raising me to be the Potawatomi man I am today. And God bless her soul. Thank y'all.